Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. On today's show, we will get you set for Week 5 of the SEC. Some massive games this weekend. We'll run through each game, give you our picks for the weekend. Also, we'll catch up with college football analyst and former quarterback Taylor McHargue to get his thoughts on Bama-Ole Miss and Arkansas-Georgia. And we will go around the conference with the latest news happening around the SEC ahead of this week's games. Let's jump right into it.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, I am Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. Let's do it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Makes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
Yesterday, Nick Saban talking about his Florida game, Week 3, and that the crowd there was something to behold. Saban said he wants to see Alabama fans create a similarly hostile environment in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday when Ole Miss comes to town. He said, quote, when we played down in Florida, I mean, it was really, really tough on our team. You could tell. So hopefully we can make it a little bit that way for Ole Miss. We're just excited to be playing in a big game at home in our stadium against a good team. And hopefully our fans, our players, and everybody will have great passion and enthusiasm for this game. All right? Meanwhile, Alabama fans, they've been clamoring for a change in music selection at home games. And apparently, AD Greg Byrne has heard those cries and plans to do something about it. Byrne tweeted out yesterday morning there are plans to change the music at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So maybe that will give the atmosphere a little bit more of a boost. Don't know what music they're specifically looking for, but a change in music coming to Bryant-Denny Stadium. As for Ole Miss, their head coach Lane Kiffin was on the Paul Feinbaum show this week, and he said he is not taking quarterback Matt Corral for granted. He said Corral is a very unique talent. We're very fortunate, and I remind our fans and our coaches all the time, like, enjoy this while you have it, because you're going to wish you had this someday. He said, knock on wood. I mean, the guy basically hardly ever misses a throw, and that's pretty fortunate to be around. Look, if Ole Miss is going to pull off the upset on Saturday, it's going to be because Matt Corral plays special, and if he does that, he'll find his name right there at the top of the Heisman list, outplaying Bryce Young in Tuscaloosa. Over at Tennessee, on his weekly radio show, Vol Calls, Coach Josh Heupel talked about the Vols bouncing back from their loss last week at Florida. He said, guys have been really good. Disappointment in their faces when they walked on the field on Saturday night. Finishing drives, finishing games, finishing our preparation during the course of the week. We're not a long ways off, but, man, there are so many subtle details, a play here, a play there, that change the course of a football game. As far as where things stand presently at their quarterback spot, Heupel did not offer much in terms of what to expect at Missouri on Saturday, but he did provide an update on Joe Milton. He said Joe has continued to get better. He's moving around on the practice field closer to 100% at this point. Hendon Hooker was injured late in Saturday's game at Florida. Milton came in and finished the game. Tennessee and Missouri are set to kick off at noon Eastern on the SEC Network. The Vols have won each of the past 2 years against Mizzou, looking to keep that streak going. Meanwhile, Greg McElroy on his radio show, Jocks FM in Birmingham, was talking about Auburn this week and said he doesn't have any inside information on the quarterback, but he said, my bet would be they start Bo Nix at LSU. He said, I don't know. I don't have any insider info, but I would be surprised if anyone other than Bo Nix starts. Meanwhile, SEC Network broadcaster Tom Hart, who joined Greg McElroy on his show, said, what message does this send to the rest of the team, and what effect does it have on team chemistry, even if it's not specific to Auburn? I think when you make a change like that, that ripple goes through every meeting room at the facility. I tend to agree with those guys. I think Bo Nix will start the game. I wouldn't be surprised if they have some plays designed for TJ Finley and both guys play, but I think Bo Nix starts. We'll see what happens Saturday night. Brian Harsin, also talking with the media this week, gave an update on Owen Pappo and Demetrius Robertson. Linebacker Owen Papo, he said, Owen's been able to do some things this week. He's been progressing like he needs to. He's a tough player. We'll see where he's at the next couple practices. Well, Robertson, he said, D-Rob will be available this game. He's been practicing and preparing. He's worked hard to get himself healthy. This week is no different. So 2 big-time playmakers for Auburn will be playing this week. Meanwhile, for LSU, their running back John Emery not returning to the field anytime soon following a ruling from the NCAA about his academic eligibility. The NCAA denied his latest appeal, according to Ross Dellinger at SI. And now Emery's attorney plans to pursue other options while the running back is still ineligible, but do not expect him on the field Saturday night for LSU. Over at College Station, Texas A&M is hosting Mississippi State Saturday night, and Mississippi State, or rather Texas A&M, hoping this is a bounce-back game for them, but Greg McElroy, appearing on Paul Feinbaum this week, said that is a dangerous game. You're already having the hangover, in fact, from playing poorly against Arkansas. You're probably beat up because of how physical Arkansas was, and now you have Alabama looming, one of the biggest games they will have on campus in quite some time. A&M's got to show up against Mississippi State. Speaking with the media this week, Mike Leach talking about the atmosphere. He said there are some unique traditions there at Kyle Field. It's loud. One of the biggest things is everybody's extremely enthusiastic to go there. That is a great place to play. Over at Mizzou, head coach Eli Drinkwitz talking about his team this week. He said his defense will need to play much better against Tennessee this week. He said the key is getting set, getting lined up, making sure everybody's on the same page, 11 guys acting as one. You have to get adjusted very quickly. How do you make sure you can get all that communicated across the board and still play? Missouri has announced its uniform combo for Saturday's home game. The Tigers are going back in black for the return to Columbia. Meanwhile, down in the Swamp, Florida, they'll be breaking out the orange pants for their first SEC road game of the season, heading up to Lexington. The Gators unveiled their uniform combo. Be white. They wore white pants the first 4 games of the season. Now they will go to the orange pants, orange helmets, and white road jerseys. Of course, Kentucky going to be wearing the blue. Speaking of Kentucky, Mark Stoops talking with the media this week about facing quarterback Emory Jones. He said Emory is fantastic. He can beat you with his arm and his legs. He looks more and more comfortable with every rep. And with Anthony Richardson again, you see incredible arm strength and a guy who can also run through you. So expect Anthony Richardson to be back and play some, but don't take away from what Emory Jones has done. He has been outstanding so far to start the year. Over in South Carolina, Coach Shane Beamer was asked to assess his team's play this season. He said he couldn't be more pleased with how hard his guys have played, but he wants to see improved execution. He said effort has not been an issue with these guys. Our guys have played hard, and I'm proud of that. We just have to be more efficient and execute. The Gamecocks will host Troy this Saturday, 3:30 Eastern. Since 2014, the rivalry game between Texas A&M and Arkansas has been played over in Jerry's World in Arlington, Texas, with the exception of 2020, where they had the COVID issue. They played that one at College Station. But A&M Athletic Director Ross Bjork said that he wants the game returned back on college campuses. He said once the current agreement between A&M and Arkansas expires, that game and all SEC games should be played on SEC campuses rather than at neutral sites. I would agree with Ross. Uconn Vanderbilt coming up this Saturday night. Vandy is 1-3. Uconn is 0-5. And if you're interested in seeing that game between a pair of struggling teams, well, it will not cost you very much. Barrett Sallee of CBS Sports pointed out this week, tickets going as low as $6 to get into the building for Vanderbilt Uconn. They're set to kick off Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. You got to think there might be some people just handing out free tickets outside the stadium by Saturday night. A couple other notes. Brian Harsin, just 4 games in, and he's already getting negative feedback. Former Auburn offensive coordinator Tony Franklin hosts a podcast and made some comments about Harsin, saying, quote, "You hired a weak man with no backbone who was going to get run over by all these boosters. You called a press fade for the inside slot receiver on your go-to play to try to beat Penn State? That's your go-to? 4 games in and you crack and you fire your receivers coach?" Pretty interesting comments from Tony Franklin, so we'll see how that one plays out. Lastly, according to the Athens Banner-Herald, Georgia and NC State have scheduled a home-and-home series for 2033 and 2034, and Arkansas announced a home-and-home series against Texas Tech to be played in 2030 and 2031. Thanks again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll talk some SEC with college football analyst Taylor McHargue. That's next. Need to remind you guys about our friends over at Built Bar. We already tell you about the many delicious flavors they have, from the cherry barcia, the raspberry, the mint brownie, my personal favorite, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream. There's something for everybody. And if you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get a mixed box where you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. But basically, it's this. Built Bar flavors, best tasting, and they are healthy as well. 17 to 18 grams of protein packed in there. Calories ranging from 130 to 180. I had one just earlier today as an afternoon snack. It's better than cookies or chips or anything other junk that you would be eating out there. And again, Built Bar has been one of the best tasting protein bars out there. If you just had a workout or you're just looking to find a healthier alternative, go to BuiltBar.com. Use our promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your first order if you've never ordered from them before. Use the promo code LOCKED15. Get 15% off over at BuiltBar.com. The year is winding down. Time to make some healthier choices. Run along here, Locked On SEC, and always fun to catch up with this guy, our buddy Taylor McHargue, who played the quarterback position in college. Now he is a college football analyst, doing some games on ESPN3 and covering a whole lot of different teams across college football. We always love to get his take, and he joins us now. Taylor, welcome in, man. We saw Auburn catch a scare this past weekend with a Georgia State team playing a close game with them. We saw Boston College beat Missouri in overtime, not counting Alabama and Georgia. But what is it about some of these lesser teams that are kind of hanging around or even beating some of these SEC programs and other big name teams that we don't expect to lose?
Yeah, I think the COVID year is playing a big part in that. You see there's a lot of guys out there that are in their 6th, and there's a few that are in their 7th year if they've got medical red shirts. And that ability to, last year didn't really count. So you've got a bunch of teams with guys that have played a lot of football. And I think you're also seeing, you mentioned Alabama, Georgia at the top. There's a lot of teams in the top 25 that I think are all about the same, but because of preseason rankings are put ahead of one another. I got asked this yesterday, and it really made me stop and think, who do you think would win right now between unranked Texas and Texas A&M? And going into this season, Texas A&M was a top 10 team. I think they were top 5 in the preseason polls. But right now, I really had to think about that because Texas looks much improved since the quarterback change. And then there's several teams around the country right now that in their conference are making noise. Wake Forest now is looking like maybe they have a chance at winning the ACC. No one gave them a chance at that before the season. Maryland undefeated, hosting Iowa tomorrow night. So there's a lot going on right now with teams that we're not used to seeing. And then some of the traditional powers that are Clemson, Oklahoma, that don't look nearly like what we expected.
Taylor, one of the biggest games in the country this weekend, Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels traveling to Tuscaloosa to take on the top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. The Rebels are around a 14.5-point underdog. Do you give Ole Miss a chance to pull off the upset? And as a former quarterback yourself, what have you seen out of Matt Corral at quarterback this year?
I got to watch Matt Corral at the Manning camp this summer, got to see him up close and personal, and I was surprised by how strong his arm is. He's got a really live arm. What stands out to me when I watch Matt Corral above everything else, he does a lot of things well, but his accuracy on deep balls and intermediate shots is maybe the best I've ever seen. And I'm talking about that 30 to 45-yard throw that is in their offense. They take 10 to 15 of these shots a game where you've got to put it either on a line or you've got to throw a 2-ball that gets right over a defender. You go back to that Louisville game, he's got a couple what we call hole shots between a corner and a safety that, he's 6 inches from this getting tipped or picked off. And it's a perfect ball. And he's got examples of that on tape. Last year had some turnover issues, but his accuracy and his deep ball is really outstanding. This line stinks to me because it opened at 20. It immediately comes down to 14.5. And even last year, Ole Miss at home They were in that game for forever, and then Alabama pulls away late and wins by, I think it was 16, maybe 15, and they got to go to Alabama for this one. I think, to me, Ole Miss will score. They're going to – I would expect some back and forth here. I just wonder how long can they sustain that. I do like Ole Miss to cover, but it's not a line that I wouldn't be taking anything, and I certainly wouldn't be taking the over in this game. Last time I saw it, I think it was like 79 or 80.
Yeah. It's depending on where you're looking at. We prefer BetOnline.ag, and look, Taylor, we got a battle of two top 10 teams happening this Saturday morning. Arkansas at Georgia, the Bulldogs right around 17, 18.5 point favorites. We know how good the defense is for Georgia, but any chance Arkansas can hang around with Georgia? I mean, we've seen Arkansas play really well. They have one of the most impressive resumes already out there, but any chance Arkansas can hang with Georgia?
Well, a lot of it's going to depend on if KJ Jefferson's healthy at quarterback for Arkansas. It looks like he's going to play, but how effective is he in the run game? That's going to determine Arkansas's success. Georgia has the best front seven in the country. This is one of the best front sevens that's ever been assembled. They're unbelievable. And you've got their best versus Arkansas's best. Arkansas's run game versus Georgia's run defense going head to head. And if I'm a defensive coordinator, you're saying, we're going to make sure you're going to have to throw the football. If you're going to beat us, KJ Jefferson, it's going to have to be in your downfield passing. That line is huge, and I like Arkansas to cover that line. I don't trust JT Daniels and that offense to run away from Arkansas's defense. I also like that it's an early kick. It's an 11 o'clock kick. If this was a night game and you gave Georgia fans all day in the parking lot to drink and get sideways, it'd be a more rowdy environment. But I think Georgia does win this game. I agree with you. I think 18.5 is too much.
Well, to me, it kind of sucks. It's an 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern kickoff. Do you for Arkansas, Georgia, you have any thought on the early games? Do you like them at all?
Fans hate them. Viewers love them.
Love it.
So if you're on site, nobody wants to get up at 7 a.m. to go to a football game, and players hate them too because it's the same thing. You're waking up at 6:30 or 7 in the morning for a game. For the viewers, it's a little bit different because they stagger. Now you have a primetime game at 11, a primetime at 2:30, and a primetime or a couple in the evening, and that's why they do it. I hate it. I wish there's a couple games already this season that were 11 o'clock kicks that you're like, how is this not pushed back into the afternoon or the evening slate? And then for fans, again, nobody wants to tailgate. I mean, that's a rough way to start your morning at 9 a.m. in the parking lot with a Bloody Mary. But if there's anybody that can do it well, it's going to be Georgia.
Taylor, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
All right, there he is. That's Taylor McHargue, college football analyst, and really appreciate him taking some time out, as he does every week, talk some SEC with us. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll give you our picks for this weekend's SEC Week 5 slate. That's coming up. Need to remind you guys about BetOnline. They're back and better than ever. All eyes on the gridiron, college football, NFL. As always, BetOnline, your number one spot for all things pro and college football action. The new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for everything football. Head on over to their website. You can do so on your mobile device. If you've never signed up before, sign up today, and you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use the promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to receive your bonus from football to MLB playoffs, everything for you right there. You don't want to wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for this 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. Check them out today. If you have not signed up yet and you've been waiting Week 5 of the SEC already, what are you waiting for? Jump in. BetOnline.ag. BetOnline. Also, if you're a college football fanatic and you have not tried Prize Picks yet, you need to go check them out. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. I love it, and I know you guys will as well. Prize Picks is a leader in the college football sports daily fantasy. They offer more college football props than anyone in the world and offer all the star players from the Power 5 and much more. They offer any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions. All of our users at Locked On, you will receive when you deposit, use our promo code Locked On. You'll receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You have to use our promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. Use the award-winning app. You can find it on the App Store or Google Play, or just go to prizepicks.com. Use our promo code Locked On. Go to the App Store, download their app today. Prize Picks is safe and offers faster withdrawals. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All right, roll along here, Locked On SEC. And let's get into it. We got our betting lines for week 5 in the conference, and this is from our friends over at BetOnline.ag. We got to jump into it. There was one game that is not on their board, so we'll give you that one real quick. 2:30 game, Troy at South Carolina. South Carolina is looking at some of the other books, they're around a touchdown favorite. I would hope South Carolina covers that line, but 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern on SEC Network, but BetOnline does not have that one. I think South Carolina wins, but I would hope they win more convincingly than a touchdown. Troy's not a bad team, but South Carolina, man, you got to bounce back after a couple losses in the conference. Go take care of business against Troy. All right, let's start with the games that are on the board at BetOnline. We start with Arkansas at Georgia. 12 Eastern on ESPN. College game day is there, and they'll be moving inside the stadium for the last hour of college game day as they get you set for this one. You start to feel the atmosphere and the ambiance. Look, a battle of 2 top 10 teams. Arkansas's got a great resume, but my God, that Georgia defense is lights out. The line right now at BetOnline is Georgia minus 17.5. And as much as I want to say, man, that feels like a lot of points, do we feel like Arkansas can keep it within 17? If they do, they cover that line. Oh, man, the health of KJ Jefferson, I just don't know. You got the big win over A&M last week, but how much did it cost you? Malik Hornsby came in. He looked a little bit like the lights were too bright for him. I think KJ Jefferson plays, but can he get the ball consistently to Treylon Burks? I'm taking Georgia minus the 17.5. I'm rooting for Arkansas. I hope you could hang in it, guys. It would be such a feather in the cap to Sam Pittman to go in there and put some points up on Georgia, run the football well. But I just think the Georgia defense is the real deal. Now, I think Arkansas's defense and Barry Odom can give Georgia's offense some fits. Maybe slow down the running game, make JT Daniels have to make some tough throws. But if I had to bet it, I'm taking Georgia to win, and I'm taking Georgia to cover. But I hope Arkansas can keep it closer than that. Another morning game, 11 a.m. Central. It will be Tennessee at Missouri. Mizzou is a 3-point favorite. And look, I like Josh Heupel. I thought they played a good first half against Florida last week. But we saw it. The Vols don't have the depth to hang in there. I think this is a game that Missouri, they're fresh off their loss at Boston College. I think Missouri gets back to throwing the football well with Connor Bazelak, running the football with Tyler Beatty. We know Tennessee's defense struggles to stop the run. On the flip side, Missouri's defense has struggled to stop the run. I think Tennessee will have some great success with Tyon Evans and Jabari Small running the football. But I think in the end, Missouri wins, and I think they cover the 3. Give me Missouri minus the 3. But Tennessee, I want to see some production, better production out of the quarterback spot. Are they going to play Joe Milton? Is it going to be Hendon Hooker? And if Joe Milton plays, will he stop overthrowing everybody? Missouri minus 3. We'll save the game of the week. We'll jump into the evening. Florida at Kentucky, 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. This is a good one, man. Unbeaten Kentucky gets to show what they're made of against Emory Jones and Florida. I just feel like Emory Jones and that offense are on another level with how they run the football, and we're going to get to see Anthony Richardson back this week. But 7.5 is a lot of points for Kentucky to be catching at home. I'm going to take Kentucky and the 7.5 points. Wouldn't surprise me, though, if Florida wins the game. Keep in mind, these two teams, the last couple times they've played in Lexington, Kentucky has answered the bell, and they've played close games. Now, they've missed field goal kicks that they've needed late and that sort of thing, but they did also break the streak and beat Florida just a couple of years ago. So I'm taking Kentucky in the points. If the line stays around there, maybe you can get some good value on taking Kentucky money line straight up. But if I was pressed against it, I think it's a game that Florida wins. Also at night, 6 p.m. Central on the SEC Network, Mississippi State at Texas A&M, a danger spot for the Aggies. Look, you just lost in Dallas against Arkansas. Zach Calzada has not been good since taking over for the injured Haynes King. A&M's got to get back to their bread and butter, and that's running the football. Offensive line injuries have hampered them. Isaiah Spiller not rushing the ball very well. Do you know Emory Jones has more rushing yards than Isaiah Spiller so far this year? That's crazy to me. I think Will Rogers and company are going to fling it around the field, and they're going to have some success against A&M. I would not be surprised if this one gets a little bit high scoring. If I had to bet it, I would take Mississippi State plus the 7. Like, if they were closer to 3, something like that, I would lean Aggies. But Mike Leach and Mississippi State getting a full touchdown on the road against a struggling offense in A&M. Give me the Bulldogs. Game we talked about that you can get into for $6 this week, Uconn at Vandy. Vandy is a 14.5-point favorite against Uconn. Maybe the only team in the country that Vandy is over, 2-touchdown favorite over. Uconn is 0-5. They are miserable. If I had to bet this game, I would stay away completely, but Uconn is such a dismal disaster. Vanderbilt's bad too, but give me the lesser of the two worst teams. I'll take Vandy minus the points. I think they win, but UConn's probably the only team that Vandy can win against convincingly at this point. Auburn at LSU, 8 p.m. Central on ESPN, a late night one, a packed, rockin' Tiger Stadium, Death Valley. Who's going to start at quarterback for Auburn? Is it Bo Nix or is it TJ Finley? Doesn't matter to me. To me, the story of this game is, can LSU consistently stop Auburn's run game? Tank Bigsby has been so good running the football, and Auburn as a team has run the ball well. I think if Auburn pulls up off the upset, it's going to be because they have the dominant run game. However, I think LSU and Max Johnson have settled in. 3 touchdown passes every single game he's played so far, Max Johnson. I think LSU has the offense to win this game. I don't think their defense slows down Tank Bigsby. I think Auburn scores some points. We might have a little bit of a shootout in Death Valley, but in the end, I think LSU being at home, the crowd and the atmosphere is the difference maker, and LSU covers the 3.5. By the way, Auburn continuing on over 20 years now without a win in Baton Rouge, and I think that continues this weekend. Lastly, our game of the week, Ole Miss at Alabama. You know, the line just moved on this. It was 14.5 Ole Miss. BetOnline just had it moved to 14. So now I kind of want the hook of the extra point. But Ole Miss getting 14 points, man, it's just hard for me not to say that's a lot of points for Ole Miss to be catching. Give me Ole Miss and the 14. And if you're feeling really ballsy, if you can get a good line on the money line pick, I would take Ole Miss to upset Alabama. I don't think they're going to do it, but I think they can keep it close and within 14. Ole Miss loses by 10. Bama survives another scare. They had the scare in the swamp a couple weeks ago. I think they play close. Lane Kiffin is play calling. I think Lane Kiffin shows he's a better play caller, and he and Jeff Lebby than Bill O'Brien this week, the offense coordinator for Alabama. But at the end of the day, Bama's got more weapons, more talent. John Mechie, Jameson Williams. I think that Alabama prevails, but Bama's got to get back to running the football. It's something they have struggled with this year, ranking around 10th in the SEC in rushing. At this point in the year, we never see that from Alabama. They got to do better. Bama wins, but Ole Miss covers the 14. And there you go. Those are our picks for this week. We've been doing pretty well with the picks. They want to take our advice on some of the bets here. Week 5 in the SEC. That's going to do it for me, Chris Gordy. Thanks again for making Locked On SEC your first listen. We really appreciate it. And a quick reminder, betting on the SEC doesn't have to be a guessing game. Check out the new Locked On Bets podcast. Your boy Q and Lee Sterling giving you the lock of the day. Follow Locked On Bets, brought to you by BetOnline.ag, wherever you find your podcasts. I'm Chris Gordy. Talk to you guys on Monday with a full recap of the weekend that was Week 5 in the SEC. Some monster games this weekend. You guys enjoy it all. Have a lot of fun. Don't forget to check out BetOnline.ag if you want to get in on any of the action. I'm Chris Gordy. Talk to you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.